Hello, welcome to today's update. I know I missed Friday's update, so I've done a little bit of work over the weekend, and so I got a bunch of stuff to show you guys, so let's get right into it. Um, First thing is that I realized that I really so in order to make more progress, I think I really needed to tie down all my ideas to a first prototype idea, like first stage idea. Um, Even though it might not be perfect, so I can get some playtesting after that's done and iterate on that. So I've kind of thought about Wolf's kit a little bit more. His exact playstyle. I want him to be kind of very kind of heart based. He has kind of high risk, high rewards, rush down tools. It kind of sets all this here, where he kind of it borrows from this idea that kind of Wolf is gonna try to stalk you, right? He's gonna be like outside your opponent's normal range, and then suddenly dash in when there's an opening, and then start his pressure. Um, so in general, he's gonna be a pretty standard character, or not standard. He's gonna be pretty well rounded, except that's kind of his specialty in his game plan. Um, so what this means is I kind of divide this into like offensive and defensive tools that I kind of want. So I want him to be kind of fast, run speed. I want him to have this sort of mix up with right a dash attack, and also a command dash that kind of goes into more pressure. Just different ways for him to approach. And on block, right, he's either going to be trying to grab you with a command grab, probably. I'm still everything's kind of up in the air, but the first prototype of it is that he's gonna try to mix you up with command grabs and also counter hits and stuff like that when he gets close. Not as much high-low mix-ups. I'm currently thinking, so that's that. In terms of normals, I definitely want him to have some good anti-air tools, but even in his specials, I want him to be able to catch um, movement options, like things like back dashes, things like back jumps, him having like maybe a special moves to start his pressure that way. So if he sees the opponent or he kind of predicts the opponent is going to jump, he can do that and get his pressure started. If not, then he's going to be kind of negative or maybe punishable for probably not punishable, but probably negative from that attempt. Let's see. So that's kind of my first idea for him for now. Um, the next thing I did was I kind of got down general ideas in terms of frame data for each of my moves. I was watching the Skullgirls talk for animating moves, and they had guidelines for how the frames for a normal move, the frames for a light attack, the frames for a medium attack, and frames for a heavy attack. So I took a look at Skullgirls, I took a look at Guilty Gear, I took a look at BlazBlue, and I think the general idea is that, or you can see on screen right now, like what the general like frame data is for each of the moves. Things in Guilty Gear definitely have a lot less recovery compared to Skullgirls, where it's a lot more chain based. So I intend to stick more to the Guilty Gear route. Same with BlazBlue. BlazBlue frame data is actually very similar to Skullgirls frame data, where a lot of the moves are very negative on block because it's kind of a game that highly punishes whiffing attacks. But then once you get something on hit or on block, then you can start your pressure that way. So I don't want it quite as chain based or quite as combo based. So I'm gonna have it more the speed of a Guilty Gear, where there's still things gonna be pretty negative, but most of the moves are pretty fast. Comes up pretty fast, and it comes up pretty fast, but there's still distinct differences between the range and the startup of all of these moves. So let's get into kind of the moves I implemented. The first thing I did over the weekend was a command dash. So take a look at it. So for these, I would like to show a little bit of like process to see, just to kind of either for you or for future me to see the process that I went through to kind of do these moves and kind of the progression of it. Because I think a lot of times people often just show the final one and it's like, oh, it's all pretty, but it kind of doesn't show how they got there. So here's the final. Let me show you guys what the final one looks like first. Let's see. So this is the command dash. Let me just play in full on loop. So this is a command dash. Let's see. Yeah. So the idea behind this command dash is that it might be a little bit hard to see. I guess it doesn't matter too much, but he tries to do a little bit of like a little spin. So he's gonna lunge forward, do a little spin, and go to his ready stance. The idea is that maybe I have an ender for a slash after the spin so that he can get a little bit of momentum and stuff like that. But I do kind of like this little bit of flair. What I've realized more and more is that it's very hard to fit in like extraneous movements and like be somewhat creative. Especially when you're so limited by frame counts. Let's see, this is running 20 frames, so this is already, let's see, this is already 60 frame move. This is almost, wait, no, this is not a 60 frame. This is a 30 frame move. Yeah, this is a 30 frame move already. So each frame is, currently it's 20 frames per second, so each frame is 3 frames, or each frame here corresponds to 3 frames in game. So this is already like half a second of movement. Let me show you guys what the original draft looks like. Let's see. So this is what the original draft looks like. Let's see. So he lunges forward. You see everything is very similar, except it's just the final one is a lot more tied down in terms of anatomy, in terms of like his figure and the weight and stuff like that. But I do try to preserve a lot of the, or not preserve. I try to express a lot of the movement or the idea behind the move in this first draft, even though it's super rough. I don't really want all the frames, but I want kind of the rhythm of it and the rhythm and the movement of it to be what I want. So you can see here, there's actually quite a bit of difference in terms of his poses in order to get him anatomically correct. But the general idea is here, right? The general idea is that he lunges forward, so he leans back, lunges forward, does a little spin, and in this kind of crouch state, and then recover it. And then this one, it's kind of the same thing, just all the kind of props and all the kind of all the props and all the weights and all the shapes are kind of filled in right now instead of just being sticks. So that's the first thing I did over the weekend. I've implemented that into the game too. You'll see that in a bit. But let me go over the other move that I did. So the next thing I did is a dash attack. I think this is the draft. So this is the final version of it. So he crouches down and then does a little. So this is a smear frame and then ends in kind of this cross slash. And then he slides for a little bit on his recovery. So this is heavily based off of Inosuke's move. So I took basically all the poses from here. Let's see. So he's a pretty cool like dual sword character that fits very well into my theme, and I think this attack is just very good. Or it kind of conveys the idea that I want to convey. So here you can see his poses right here. So I tried to imagine what kind of form he is, kind of the pose that he's in kind of these different. This is a different perspective, right, from the actual one, or from my actual from the perspective of my game, right? But I very much try to imagine exactly like what let's see, what it would look like. So it's heavily inspired. You can see him like reaching down the two hands, and you can see that same thing here. And then obviously different things are exaggerated in different frames. So I think he's leaning down a little bit more than he would. Like his back shoulder, I don't think would usually be that exposed, or his back in general. Let's see. So it's a little bit annoying where he is here. Right. So this frame here doesn't really tell us much because he's just kind of like outside of the frame. But let me see if I can go back. Yeah. So I took inspiration off this move. Let's see. Right. And then I kind of saw what it would look like, and then got this. I kind of really like the slide. I had dust particles coming off of him earlier, which was really cool. Oh, so you can see it in the draft that I did. So this is the draft. So you can see him crouching down. This is slash animation. This is not very final yet. And then here, right? I really like the way the dust is puffing up, but I don't think it fits very well into the game right now. I don't have a particle system, and if you get hits during the middle of it, then it would just like kind of flash away unless I actually have some sort of particles or like some other sort of systems, which I don't have yet. So I'll probably implement that later. But so this is kind of the first idea. This pose was definitely very took me kind of the whole day today to get this down. Just because it was very hard kind of translating the perspective and getting exaggerating and like changing his form a little bit to fit this perspective a little more and emphasize different movements. I had a lot of problems with his legs to like get him to feel that kind of attack. So I'm pretty proud of it, I would say. I do really like this mirror frame in game. So okay, so let me show you guys what it looks like in game. I think it looks pretty slick. So let's see. So right, so I have things bound to just like a single button press right now because I don't have other attacks implemented yet, so it's okay. So this is his command dashing game. It works out very well, I think. I think the frame rate is pretty low right now because I'm recording. Let me see if I can. Let me just try again. Okay, there you go. Alright, whatever. Okay, so yeah, so this is his command dash. It would normally be a lot faster, but you can see him kind of doing that double spin right here, even though it's not very obvious now because I'm limited by frame counts. But you kind of get the gist of the idea that he's kind of like doing something in place. Maybe you probably won't know if I don't tell you though. So that's kind of one thing that I'm not sure about, where it's like a lot of the flares and a lot of the different attacks or like a lot of the different movements isn't going to read very well in such a limited time. So that's definitely something I'm struggling with, just to give each attack personality and stuff like that. So, and then this is dash attack. I modified the frames a little bit to be more what I want. At least the frames right now is not final, but it's based off of Slayer's Mappa Punch, which is close to what I want. I shortened the amount of time that it's active because it like if it's active for 6 frames, it's like actually active forever, and then it seems like he's slashing people. And actually, I had a few problems with the cape earlier. Actually, so the cape used to not go towards the opponent, or used to like fly back behind him, which actually I realized didn't make any sense. So there's definitely things that would click more once you put it in the game and see it in action. Yeah, so this is a move. If you step through it, let's see. So the way it works is that he gets ready, and then I apply an impulse to him as he slides forward, and he goes forward and he slides around for a bit. The way he slides is actually not normal. I had to change his braking friction a little bit to get him sliding forward correctly. And that's something here that I'm setting at specific intervals to change exactly right. So now I set the gravity before, right, to get the person to be able to float at certain times. And now I can set the braking friction too, where it determines kind of how fast he like slows down when there's no inputs to the character. So I think it works out very well. Yeah, so that's kind of the two things I did. I realized that animating just takes a long time compared to kind of the BP Dude stuff that I was working on earlier, right? It's like this is kind of like much more thinking in terms of like posing and act. It's kind of like acting, where you're like kind of imagining what the character would do, and then getting the different timings down and stuff like that. So also this timing is a little bit different from the timing in my Krita project, just to fit it within kind of the game's, make it feel better within the game. So yeah, that's my updates for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys tomorrow.